Tuesday, December 29th. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance.
United States of
Flag.
America, Republic, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
For all.
Pat just joined.
For all.
Okay,
Pat's joining now. You're muted, Pat.
Pat, you're muted.
There you go. Okay. Roll call.
President McCarthy,
Present.
Dr. Carpenter,
Present.
Mr. Forbeck,
Present.
Ms. Lalbo,
present.
Mr. Matlin,
Present.
Ms. Provenza,
Present.
Mr. Suchovich,
Here,
Mayor Recupero,
Present.
Mr. Alexander,
Here.
and I am also here.
Okay. Do we have any registered comments?
No, we don't have any registered comments.
Okay.
We have public comment, though. We have-
Okay. Go to
So
the public comment.
first will be either Dawn or Rhoda Wharf. Hold on.
Okay.
You're on mute, guys.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
let me
Okay,
go
it'll
first.
be, okay, it's
Okay.
both of us. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I have two agenda-related items. I would like to read some of my thoughts for your consideration. Agenda item 1, it's imperative that you select a qualified individual to be the interim manager for Verona. Having said this, I feel the most logical approach is to hire Mr. Douglas Shields. He has the support of some of the members on council, as well as many of the Verona's registered voters. Mr. Shields is an individual with 20 years' experience within the Pittsburgh City Council. In his resume, he states in detail his ability to handle the managerial duties under 4 key categories, which the second category is municipal governmental operations, which is key to borough's managerial requirements. In his own words, he states that he is fully familiar with all aspects of local government operations, familiar with operating and capital budgeting and analysis, familiar with pensions, familiar with public works, familiar with zoning, familiar with planning and comprehensive planning, familiar with human resources, familiar with housing recovery, familiar with building codes, and familiar with intergovernmental cooperation. Rather than being rushed as a council, this would give you the luxury of time to carefully select the most qualified full-time borough manager. Item 2 from the agenda. Also, when you post an ad for the position for manager, could you also include an advertisement for a code enforcement officer to complement our current code officer? These are 2 very important positions that need to be filled in a timely manner. Lastly, in relation to the budget, I would appreciate council posting the audit visibly for the public to view. In closing, I would just like to say, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Verona to secure a qualified manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't finish saying that.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir. I wasn't sure if Donald was going to.
I wasn't either.
I'm going to hold off until later, if that's okay, if I could split my time later on.
Sure, Don.
Fine, sir.
So next will be Jessica Verone.
On 722 Bruno Street. So first of all, I appreciate there was a good attempt to share information with the community after my last inquiry into the getting the agendas published. I saw that it was up on the website, and I think the minutes are up there as well. But it would be really nice if we could get that information sooner than 24 hours before the meeting, so that folks have an opportunity to take a look at the agenda, see what's on it, know what's coming up, what's going to be voted on. I actually took a look at the agenda, and it was not clear to me, unless, you know, I'd already known, which I do, that you're planning on voting on a budget tonight. It just said budget. Like, that could be anything. It could be a discussion of the budget. It's just not very specific. So I think there just needs to be a little more thought put into drafting that agenda, you know, maybe editing it to make sure that it's clear what's going on during the meeting, so the public is aware. I would really appreciate that. And then I also have a few questions about the borough manager search, since I know that's on the agenda, and what your plans are to find a new full-time manager. I'm wanting to know a lot of things, actually, and maybe you'll get to this, but have you established a hiring committee to work through all of the various aspects of this? I'd like to know how you're going to be advertising for the position. You know, are there specific job boards, different associations you're going to reach out to make sure we have qualified candidates? You know, if you need a master's degree, maybe checking into some of the local universities that have master's degrees in public administration. So also what the process will be for reviewing and selecting applicants. You know, who's going to conduct those interviews? Have you kind of thought about what that process will look like? Do the folks conducting the interviews have experience doing that? I've done that before, and it's tricky. You know, if you don't have that HR background, or you haven't been involved in it before, I think it'd be a challenge for any small borough to go through this process. So I think the more thought we can put into it, the better. You know, are we planning for second interviews if we get a lot of qualified candidates? I also have some significant concerns about the time frame. Since the position hasn't been advertised yet, it seems extremely unlikely that we're going to get someone in the role by the time that Mr. Kenna leaves at the end of January. It's just actually impossible, as far as I can tell, because whomever you interview needs to be, you know, offered the position. They may have to leave a couple weeks notice at their current job. So the odds seem very, very, very slim to me that you'll get someone in that role by the time he has to leave. And I know that many of you have been resistant to some proactive plans by other council people to identify an interim manager. So I would only assume that this means you have a pretty solid plan in place to fill that gap in leadership for the community. I think we deserve that. And then also, I think many of you probably remember the past couple of years, Oakmont hired a borough manager, and it took quite a while for them. I think they had to repost the position, and they did have someone fill that role, I believe, on an interim basis. So I'm also wondering if you reached out to them to find out some lessons learned, what some thoughts from them would be in terms of what worked well and what didn't. So some suggestions and questions that I hope to get answered tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Dan Showalter. Dan.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Dan Showalter, 440 North Avenue. Straight off the bat, I'd first like to thank Ray, Sergeant Jerry, the EMS, and all the volunteer firefighters for this past Christmas parade, and especially the gentleman that was driving the truck that I was standing in. He expertly dodged the potholes on the street, and he saved my knees a world of hurt. And I would especially like to thank Mayor Dave for giving me the opportunity to play Santa this year. I can personally say I had a ball doing it, and we had a pretty good turnout in the borough, and the smiles on the kids' faces was just phenomenal. So anyways, thank you, Mayor Dave. I really do appreciate that opportunity. Speaking here strictly as a Republican, I have reached out to Jim Ashbaugh, Leo, obviously Jeff Adobe, and other Republicans in this borough that would prefer their names not be used. And all of us are behind the idea of Doug Shields. This is a bipartisan issue in this borough that doesn't come along very often. You have a wide swath of Democrats in this borough and the Republicans of this borough in favor of the idea of Doug Shields. Coming out of 2020, between COVID, the contentious presidential election we all just went through, we have an opportunity here in this borough to unite Republicans and Democrats behind an idea. And the only thing standing in the way of this right now is 4 members of council. The will of the people, Republicans and Democrats combined, are the idea of Doug Shields. I would ask council and the 4 members of council that are opposed to this idea, please reconsider. I cannot imagine that there is going to be somebody coming down the line that is going to have a resume anywhere even close to what Doug Shields has. And as an interim borough manager, I think he would do a phenomenal job. So speaking for Republicans in this borough, I can say Doug Shields is our guy. And I am pretty confident I can speak for a vast majority of the Democrats in this borough. Doug Shields is our guy. So please, the 4 members of council, don't stand in the way of the will of the people. This is what we want. Thank you and have a good night.
Next is Laura Jacko.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, sorry, I'm on my phone, so I have some connection issues right now. So just say something if I hiccup. 437 North Avenue. I also kind of wanted to echo a lot of the same thoughts and concerns that some people had. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that by the time that Jerry leaves, there's not enough time to get in a full-time borough manager. So I would like to see, to see what our plan is. And I think that having an interim person come in the meantime so that we have some time to, hire the right person, really have a thorough and open vetting process would be great. And I think that we should frankly be honored that someone as esteemed as Doug Shields has offered to come in and help us. Like, this is a gentleman who is offering to use his expertise to help us out. For those of you who care to hear what my personal opinion and interactions with him have been, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. I've personally worked with him on some issues over in Oakmont, and he has been nothing but professional, kind, and we got the work done together. I was really impressed, and I was personally honored that I had the opportunity to work with him. And I don't want Verona to seem like a petulant child that is just turning down offers of help from very, very qualified people. If there's members of council who, again, care to think what my professional opinion is, as someone who works in the nonprofit field and also in the activist community in Pittsburgh, my opinion is that I had a really good experience with this gentleman, and I would really like to see us, take that time that he has offered us, take that breather, take that space, take his connections, and find really the right person for the borough manager position. And I would like to, definitely hear what some sort of a plan is tonight, and a structured one at that, because we're running out of time at this point. That is what I have to say, and thank you very much.
Okay. And next will be Kimberly Roller.
Hey guys, Kim Roller, 853 First Street. I had a couple of things I wanted to kind of ask about and address. So one, I don't want all of us to sound like a broken record, but I also have, I'm just curious as to why we haven't posted the borough manager position yet, knowing that Mr. Kenna did resign about 3 weeks ago. I understand that it does take a long time to get these things vetted, to finish out, job descriptions and things like that, but we are absolutely running out of time. And I haven't seen anything get posted other than the piece in the Trib that was, I think, posted this morning, that we were looking for a borough manager. So that's number one. Number two, I didn't see anything. Obviously, I'm not on the council, so I wouldn't know, but I'm interested to see what Mr. Kenna came back to us with, the proposal for the financial accountant, and see kind of what that proposal looked like, and if we've began trying to find out other bids for that as well, as discussed in our previous meeting. And then number three, looking at the budget that we're about to pass tonight, one of the things I did want to kind of bring to everybody's attention is some of our alleyways. are in serious need of repair. The alley behind my house, which I'm sorry, is completely blanking on me the name of it right this second, but the potholes in it are absolutely enormous. And even after the thaw, there were still huge craters missing. The plows actually can't get through that alley and really plow well. And it's starting to become a little dangerous, I think. So I wanted to see if that, Mr. kind of talked about the infrastructure improvements in the borough. I wanted to make sure that that was also on our list of infrastructure improvements for Verona for 2021. That's it for me today. Thank you very much, guys, and I appreciate all your hard work.
Okay. Next will be Vince Flota.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Vince Florida, 323 Penn Street. I just want to mirror what everybody else has been saying. I'm very interested in knowing what the plan is by council for the full-time borough manager. I also would like to know why a job posting hasn't been made yet. I understand the holidays are upon us, but I mean, we knew 3 weeks ago that this job was going to be vacant come the end of January, and for 3 weeks we haven't posted a job opening. So it kind of seems to me like council doesn't want to fill the position. So I would really like to hear why a job hasn't been posted and what the borough's plan is. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is Trish Showalter. Here we go. Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Council. Trish Redzek Showalter, 440 North Avenue. I want to echo what a couple people have already said about the need for a experienced interim borough manager after Mr. Kenna's resignation at the end of next month. It would make all of our lives easier, including all of yours, if an experienced manager was brought on to lead us in the search for the right long-term full-time borough manager. Next, I'd also like to echo what Kim brought up at our last meeting. I asked all of council to consider at least 2 other proposals for some of Mr. Kenna's services, namely payroll services, before passing this budget. So I would hope to hear from council about what other bids were considered before passing this process. Lastly, moving forward, I would ask that all members of council, whatever your decision is going forward, that you be completely transparent with the public. Members of the public should not have to call members of council more than 10 times in order to get no response. If you're hiding the information from members of the public, that only leads us to suspect that something is going on behind closed doors and is not a means of working together and unifying towards our future. Thank you for your time.
And next is Jen Marasco.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Jen Marasco Coon, 455 North Avenue. I just want to agree with everyone who's spoken before me about the interim borough manager. I think it's really important that we have a plan in place for a long-term solution for Verona. We have a bright future ahead of us, but we need someone who is going to lead us there, and we shouldn't rush it. We're still in the midst of a pandemic, and it is the holiday season. So trying to get someone who's qualified, who will lead us in the right way by January 30th is not a reasonable amount of time for you as the borough council, but also for us as the public to be involved in this search as well. And I do want to ask, I know it's the holiday season and everyone was busy. I was dealing with some hospitalizations for my daughter. I still had the time to write all of you about my concerns and my thoughts about Doug Shields, and only 2 of you responded. We voted you in place. We expect transparency, we expect answers. So when someone sends you a message, you can at least respond. You might not have the answer, but you can at least give a courtesy and acknowledge the email. I find it very rude and irresponsible for those who did not respond to my email. If I can balance dealing with my daughter and hospitalizations that are going on with her, but still find time to care about my community, you all can at least respond to an email. And at least you could have said Merry Christmas, but you couldn't do that. So I'm just really, really angry at all of you who did not respond. So I'm very interested to hear your plan for Verona and our future. Thank you so much.
Okay. That's it. Oh, wait, Rhea Homa.
Hi, everyone. Raya Homa, 742 Brunot Street. I asked at the last meeting if there was a plan in place to quickly hire a new borough manager, and I was told yes. I can't help but realize that you knew there would be a need for a full-time manager since the budget was released in November, and with a line item for a full-time manager, you knew then that this position would need to be filled. And now 3 weeks have passed since Mr. Kenna resigned, and now there's only 5 weeks until his resignation is actually effective. And I don't understand why this process has not been expedited and transparent to all of us and even other council members. Also, I understand that there may be some professional biases against Doug Shields. However, I think it's extraordinarily concerning that Pat, Ray, and Mike intentionally did not attend a meeting to discuss qualifications of a person who's interested in filling the interim position. The only concern I have heard against Doug Shields is that an interim borough manager would be required to be brought up to speed into the borough's affairs. I would like to respond that a borough manager worth their training would be able to jump right into the responsibilities of the position. The possibility of a learning curve is not a reason to continue depriving Verona of a trained and skilled borough manager. I think that it is unfortunate that the personal fuss of a few council people is withholding a great opportunity for Verona that your constituents are demanding. Also, I would like to state that rehiring Jerry is not, I do not see it as an option. I also do not see it as an option to rehire Jerry with an assistant. I am sorry, but Jerry does not fit the job description. If there's a plan to extend Mr. Kennedy's work in this position, there needs to be a clear temporary contract while we continue searching for an experienced and trained borough manager. Among many things that I hope to hear answered this evening, I would like to hear specific reasons why Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Suchevich, Ms. Laubo, and Mr. Forbeck are specifically against Doug Shields. This has not been made clear to us. I've also heard many citizens have emailed and called members of council about our expectations for the borough manager position. Unfortunately, I've also heard that some members, particularly Mr. McCarthy, have ignored calls, emails, and have otherwise refused to discuss this topic with residents. My questions are, why the silence? Why the lack of transparency? And why did you run for council if you refuse to work for the public who you serve? We are watching how each of you are handling this situation. We are watching each of you, and we will remember when we vote as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's it for public comment.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
I'm first, right?
First off, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Jerry needs to do some things first.
Yeah, so everybody got the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Marcia distributed them a couple weeks ago. Well, I would need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the December 8th council meeting.
Need a motion to accept the meeting minutes from December 8th.
Make that
motion.
Mr. Mountain made the motion, second by Ms. Loalbo. Are there any questions? Being no questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any noes? No noes, motion passed.
Okay, the next thing on my agenda would be the budget. So I took time and sat down with Dr. Carpenter and Mr. Matlin, went over all of the public's concerns, made the changes that were necessary. Just as an overview of some of the changes that were made. The insurance for each line item was broken down per department. I went through everything with Kevin Ewing at Kier Ewing, and he was able to break it all down for me. So each department is in there correctly. I was able to increase the code enforcement officer's salary to $50,000, back to where it was, so we can hire, like Mrs. Worf requested. If council would agree to do that, we can hire an additional code enforcement officer to help Mark. I reached out to PennDOT, and actually Craig is I think he's going to talk about the winter maintenance agreement for 2021. We talked about that. The expected amount that we're going to receive for 2021 is $3,111. So I added that in there. I had a conversation with Matt regarding the grant for cribs. The initial amounts that he gave me was that the total project cost was going to be $201,750, and that there was going to be a grant match there of 15%. That has changed. We actually got approved for up to $200,000 in grant funding with a 15% match. So total project cost is actually going to be $235,000 with a $35,000 match. So I made that adjustment in here. I went through and provided them a breakdown of every line item in the Parks and Rec department to show how everything flows in there. Everything that was requested is in there. Everything's in there. I think that's it for the adjustments. We have a balanced budget. I provided it to council a couple weeks ago, I guess, last week. Balanced budget with a $64 surplus. So I feel confident in this budget. Everything that was requested by department heads, the public, the different boards has been addressed. So I would ask if a motion could be made to pass the 2021 budget.
Someone want to make a motion to pass the 2021 budget?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Suchovich made a motion to pass the 2021 budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Loalba. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I just
I have a
want
question.
to, Dave, go ahead. I'll speak after you.
All right, Jerry, is it in the budget? I know I talked to you about cameras in the cars.
Yep, I did. I added that. I did add that as a line item in the budget.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, I believe Kimberly Roller brought up about paving some alleys. I don't know if that's something that comes out of liquid fuels, or is there some leeway in the budget to take care of some of the really bad potholes in some of the alleys?
So typical maintenance, yes. Paving those alleys has been something that we've needed to do for a while. I think Dave's work at Mr. Matlin is working on the priority list of all the streets in town that need to be focused on. In this year's budget, we need to finish the 2nd Street project. And we have a significant grant match for the reconstruction of 1st Street. So I'm not sure what leeway we have for 2021. I know that's not an answer that anybody wants to hear. But once we get that priority list in order, then at least we can communicate with the residents when that street is slated for paving. So we'll have a better idea for going forward.
Okay, not that this is directly a budget question, but maybe if there's really bad alleys, we could find some gravel or something and fill the potholes temporarily, just, until they can be paved properly.
I mean, AJ and the crew cold patched them. Sorry, Dave, you could probably.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, Nancy, I was gonna suggest that I'll get with Matt and Jerry and or AJ to figure out if there's potholes. I mean, I think we should be able to address them temporarily.
Mhm.
Maybe that's what Jerry was gonna say anyway.
Okay, all right.
I think
Yeah.
I'll take a look at the alley behind Kimberly's house, but I think in the past I've talked to Matt about certain potholes and stuff, and we've been able to get them addressed. When he feels that it's a worthy option. So I think we can look at that, and I am working on the inventory of roads, and like Jerry said, I think once we have that, we'll have a better idea of what the priorities are. I think because First Street's kind of been on the docket for a while now for this year, and with the match and everything, it's a pretty big project. It's a fairly significant road, and I think a lot of people have been complaining about that one. I think that is a good priority to knock off the list for 2021, and we can look, once I finish up this inventory, we can look towards future years with whatever money's available, how we can best utilize it.
Hey, weren't we supposed to help you with that inventory or with the ranking system?
Yeah. Mike, I've been chipping away on it. I'm making pretty good progress. I've actually been working on it this week, and I know you offered to help, and so I'll let you know once I'm finished, and we can split up and start to tag the ratings and everything in there. So hopefully have it done soon.
Nancy and Dave, that's the alley that I've been asking for quite some time. That alley is just beyond repair. And I even have suggested when they do the streets or any of the alleys, surely there's some material left over. Now, not now because weather doesn't permit, but when weather does permit, that even if there's some material left over, that there might be enough to actually pave that alley. It's not that big of an alley, but it is a major mess. The holes are not little holes, they are deep. And in the summer, there's actually bugs and stuff that just permeate in that water. It's a bad situation. And I'm again chiming in, we need to get that thing fixed. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all for indulging that tangent. I also wanted to say about the budget that I appreciate, Jerry, the time that you spent, not only in meeting with Dave and myself a couple of weeks ago, but then the subsequent time that you had to take to check into all the things that you checked into. I wanted to ask you about Mr. Hahn with PennDOT. There's something going to be happening there that maybe wasn't originally included. And the other thing I just wanted to say, I think there's, still some things like with the major and minor expenditures and things like that that could happen in the future. But I do agree that the budget, can be passed obviously for tonight. So appreciate it. Always room for more things, but I was wanting, if you would, for the public, talk about the snow plowing of ARB or whatever you found out.
The snow plowing, I talked to Mr. Hand from PennDOT. We have a winter maintenance agreement that actually just came due, and Mr. Alexander is going to present it for, we have to pass a resolution to approve it. But we will maintain Allegheny River Boulevard, and the state will be sending us $3,111 for that.
Okay, so that is, I think if I recall reading your email, that is included in the budget now.
Correct.
For revenue.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that was all.
Sorry. That maintenance, does that just cover, what all does that cover? Is it just like snow plowing or everything?
It's a winter maintenance agreement. It's just snow plow and salt.
Okay. So everything
Jerry,
else
how
is
far does that
under PennDOT's purview.
Yeah, any road repair, from what I understand, any road repair, potholes, things like that, the state has to do all that.
Okay, thanks.
Jerry, how far does that go down to McDonald's?
I don't think that it goes the whole way down to McDonald's. I don't know off the top of my head how far it goes.
Okay, okay.
We manage the whole thing and they pay.
No, it goes from,
Could you repeat
that
that?
snow removal goes from,
What, from the
I'm
cannon,
sorry.
maybe?
The snow removal.
Is Dave
All right, I'm going to
freezing?
speak for a second. The snow removal goes from James Street to, I believe, over the viaduct.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Dave.
Are there any other questions?
My only question is, what, I mean, I don't know if we need to determine this before passing the budget, but as a lot of people have alluded to, what the plan is for the borough manager and what's being, Jerry, if I understand correctly, for the month of January, you will be continuing as currently your same services and fees, correct?
Correct.
So we obviously have it in the budget for a manager position beyond January. So I just think that we would need to figure out what that plan is and what that's expected to cost. But I think what's in the budget is sufficient, it seems to me, to cover the potential for either an interim or down the road a permanent full-time manager.
Agreed.
I had forgotten about that. Is there something that we have to do to indicate in the budget the fact that it's going to look slightly different because we're not starting with the full-time borough manager on January 1st?
I think because the number is set at 70 and I don't make that, you're going to end up under budget at the end of the year because of that 1 month. So I don't think that you need to make any adjustments. I think you're just going to end up under budget because of January. That's why I left it in there as a full amount, but I have no.
So there's nothing we have to do legally, so to speak, on the budget to indicate that we're not going to have a full-time borough manager for at least 30 days?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, being no more questions, all those in favors of passing the 2021 budget, say aye.
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 Any noes? No noes. Motion passed. Budget. Go ahead, Mr. Kenna. Anything else?
The only other thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, in case you don't already know, the cleaning, the gentleman that cleaned for the borough has resigned. He was decided it was time to retire, and we need to find somebody else to clean the borough building. We had a temporary person a couple years back, 3 years back, when Bob, the guy that does it now or did it, was sick. We had Gene's Custom Cleaning come in and cover for him for a few weeks. So I'm not sure if that's the direction you want me to go in the interim. If you want to put together a bid spec for the cleaning, and then do maybe some interviews and try to find the best fit. The person that's going to clean for the borough has to be, they have access to the police department to clean the cells and things like that back there. So it's important, I think, that we interview this person and decide who's going to be the best fit for the job over and above. I don't know if we even can, besides a low bidder, and it's not, I don't think it's over a bid threshold.
If I remember correctly, I think that his salary was somewhere around $5,000 or $6,000 a year.
Yeah, so he was taking a little less than 5,000 a year, so I don't think he's over any sort of bid threshold.
Way under.
Yeah, so however council wants to handle it, if we just want to get 3 quotes and then do some interviews and then pick the best candidate from there, I wanted to get everybody's feedback tonight.
Jerry, how many days a week does he work?
Two times a week. He came Monday and he came Thursday in the evenings at like 4 o'clock, and he would be there until it was cleaned up.
Till what?
Yeah,
Until he was done. I'm not sure. 6 o'clock, 6:30.
Is there a
Oh,
job description for him?
We don't have any sort of job description for him, so it would be something we would have to put together. He's been doing it for a long time.
so he's been cleaning for us, and we don't have a job description for that position. We would have to come up with that, and also maybe put it together an ad as well to put out for that.
Yeah, just to get quotes for it. It doesn't have to be advertised. It's less than 5,000. That's what
Right.
whether it's the same or more. I don't know what it'll come in at, but he's pretty well under the bid threshold. So I don't imagine it would be enough to need 3 bids, more than just 3 quotes.
But the spec, I mean, basically a spec of what needs to be cleaned, how often it needs to be cleaned,
Yep.
and what were we paying him an hour, basically, and have someone put an ad in the paper for it, or to get some quotes on it.
What does he need any kind of or does this person need any kind of a background check or anything if he's doing the police department, or is that?
They should do
Yes.
a background, yes.
It certainly would not hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Criminal background check should be done, yes.
Well, in the meantime, do we want to get this company to come in to keep the borough building clean for the officials that are in there now? For the employees that are in there now?
Do they have a background check and all that necessary information?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it is important because of them going into the police department, correct?
Yeah. Jean's Custom Cleaning is one particular lady, Jean Steckline. She runs the company. She would be the one that would come and clean. So we can reach out to her. She did clean for us. It was back when Mark was the manager for his time as manager. He called her and she came in and she was able to cover for Bob in the meantime. We can call and see, and then see what kind of, I mean, does council want to, I mean, do we have the chief do some sort of background check on her?
She may have one, have the chief, talk to her and see if she has one done. And if not, the chief should do one if she wants to apply for the job permanently.
Okay.
Another question though, have we looked around the surrounding communities to see who they have, and like Oakmont, or even, across the river, Blawnox or whoever, that's a small community, maybe the people that are cleaning for them already have all this in place, and it would be close proximity. It's only 4 or 5 hours a week. Maybe we could do something like that as well.
Yeah, we've not done any of that. He just resigned right before Christmas, so we've not done any of that.
Okay.
Anything else, Jerry?
No, that's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Cribbs Field, they're supposed to be starting demolition, I believe it was said the last meeting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what date.
Yes, no.
I know that they're moving, but I don't know when they're starting, Dave.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking this is we had talked about opening the fields up 40 degrees above on nice days. And I did, I just thought about that after the fact of the meeting, that we don't, once they start, we're gonna have to close the field, because I don't want people in there with construction vehicles and them demolitioning and building and moving around and what have you.
There was people in there today playing.
Especially it's so close to the playground there.
Agreed.
I thought Riverbank was going to be the only park opened during the winter, where Cribs would be closed because of the field. From what we discussed the last.
I seen 3 or 4 kids in Cribs today.
Okay, I was under the understanding that both parks were going to be open, especially the playgrounds for the kids.
Yeah, we were going to keep Riverbank open for the kids. I know it's hard for, we didn't want anybody in the field. That's the thing. We don't want anybody in Cribs Field at this time because of the, the moisture, the field getting torn up and things like that.
All right, I'll make sure the chief and all right, I'll make sure that they do that, because I must have misunderstood you, that the board. All right, that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
Would we be able to keep the playground at Cribs open while keeping I can't remember if there's a gate to just the playground, or is it a package deal with the field?
It's a package deal with the field. There's not just a separate gate.
A separate gate. Okay, I could remember.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, thanks.
Do we have any idea how we can find out when they're going to start demolition? Because I thought it was supposed to start like a month ago.
Matt should know.
Matt had it. Matt had it, right, exactly.
Matt said, I believe the week of the 14th, December 14th, they were supposed to start. And I haven't been up there lately, so I'm not sure. Maybe they were just mobilizing and getting equipment in, but I don't know what progress there's been made there. But Matt would probably have an update.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing in the field. No equipment.
Well, let's ask Matt.
All right, Matt can give us I know he said it was going to start soon, but maybe they're not starting until January now. Anything else? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Borough manager. After we've discussed this, we've talked to different people in council, have talked to different people. All the council people have had an opportunity to review. Craig has finally reviewed, and we finally got the ad that we're going to put out for the borough manager. It was finally finalized today. So I asked that Mr. Forback, who spearheaded that, to talk with Mr. Kenna and get that out to the media, and so that we can start looking for a borough manager. I'm also asking that Mr. Forback, Mrs. Provenza, and Mr. Suchovich would take and do these interviews, review all the applications. Once they review all the applications, they'll do the interviews and proceed from there. Those interviews would include everybody who applies for a full-time position to help keep the transition smoothly with all the employees, considering all the employees as well, and transparency of it. Mr. Kenna has agreed that he would stick around after January 30th to assist in that transfer, so we can get the right candidate for the borough manager. And so at this point, the application, did it go out today, Mr. Kenna?
No,
Okay. I know it was later that it was sent to you. So if you could get that out tomorrow. And we're going to proceed from there. A lot of people are not going to like this, unfortunately. A lot of people do like the idea that we've talked to. So that's how we're going to proceed. We think that this is best for all of Verona, because we want a good manager and somebody that will work for Verona to keep it moving forward. Okay. That's
Okay,
all.
I'd like to ask a couple questions about this, Pat, please.
Go right ahead.
The advertisement that Mike put out a few weeks ago, was a good starting point for an advertisement, but Dave and I both were looking at that, given that we were also part of the committee doing the job description for a borough manager.
Yes.
Several suggestions were made. I have not seen, and I don't know whether the rest of council has seen the final product. And I think that it's only fair that everybody on council sees the advertisement that's going out, that we consider it, and that, I don't know if this is necessary, but we make a motion and vote on everything else. Why wouldn't we have that consideration given to us about this advertisement for one of the most important positions that we've ever tried to fill? I don't understand why just one person is writing the ad with a couple of suggestions from us and the rest of council's not seeing the final product.
I'm wondering why. I'm wondering why we weren't asked to vote on this. And I have a couple comments on that.
Well, one second.
Proposal.
1 second. I was under the impression that Mr. Forbeck did send it out to all of council. Mr. Forbeck, answer that.
We had the job description that everybody had, right? And then the ad is what Dave and Nancy and I were working on. And we did have, I incorporated both Dave and Nancy's information into that ad, and also ran it past Craig. Now, we certainly can send that out to everybody because that the final document includes all the comments to date. Now,
okay, I just like to see that. I'd like to see
okay.
it consolidated into
Yes.
one final thing, because yeah, you responded to me about something and said it looks great, but I haven't seen the final copy of it.
Okay, well, I think, Pat, that's fair enough. I will send it out.
Fine, I thought you had sent it to everybody because
yeah.
I had a copy and I read it this morning.
So why don't you make a motion to advertise the position subject to council review of the final draft?
Somebody can make that motion.
We need to put a date in place.
Tomorrow or Wednesday.
You mean a date to advertise it or a date till to accept resumes up until a certain particular time? That was a thing that we hadn't decided on in the emails going back and forth, to have a deadline for accepting resumes. I had suggested January 30th.
That's what's
Dave
in there.
concurred. Okay,
Yeah, so
well, I
that's
don't
what's in-
know. I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I took all your, I will send this out to you. I thought that was sent, so we'll make sure that goes to you.
Before that goes out, I have a comment I'd like to make.
Go right ahead.
Okay. In that contract you're sending out, you have the amount of $70,000 in there. I personally do not believe that should be in there. I think that that's a negotiating type of job. And when somebody sees 70,000, they could say, well, hey, you know what? If they can afford 70,000, I'm going to ask 75. I think that should be taken out. I think
I thought it was.
It is out.
It was.
Yeah,
I thought
we
it was in
haven't
there.
seen. You haven't seen the final copy of it, Sylvia.
Well, I just wanted to know if it was in there because I don't agree with that. I thought that needed to be edited and then taken out.
Mike, is there any way you can screen share the ad that you have the final copy of it to show both us and the public what's going to be sent out right now? Can you screen share it?
I think I have to allow you. Hold on, let me do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna send it right now, but that's okay. We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd love to have it in an email, but for the purposes of being in the moment, I'm thinking maybe screen sharing it would be a nice idea.
Are you doing it, Jerry?
Yeah, I think I allowed you. No, I'm not doing it. I allowed you to share.
Oh. Okay, see it?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard for me to see this small print.
Yeah, I bet I took all your comments and what the last thing we talked about was about putting the decreasing that one paragraph, which I did. And there is no salary in here.
Paragraph 4, right? The candidate, where is it? The candidate shall also demonstrate excellent communication skills with counsel. Yes, that's wonderful. I appreciate you doing that, Mike. Thank you.
Yes.
I just think it sounded better and it was more succinct. The position is open. Okay, so this is where I was wondering. It says this position is open till filled, but I was suggesting that we not have that in there, that we have a deadline. Resumes will be accepted until January 30th, 2021.
Yeah, we have the January 30th, 2021.
Where is that?
Down here shall be submitted January 30th, 2021.
Well, I guess I'm no expert, but I'm not sure why we need that sentence. This position is open until filled. What's the purpose of that?
Well, I think it's if you want to extend the application further, you don't have that there. The first deadline is the 30th. I don't think it makes a difference whether this is in there or not, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not something that's in my, strong set of skills, but I just was not understanding what the purpose of that sentence is.
I think the purpose of the sentence is that if you only get 2 candidates and they're not qualified, or 2 people that you don't feel are qualified, then you can extend it past January 30th. I think that's the reason why Mike put that in there, without having to re-advertise everything.
We can accept the applications, further, yes.
Well, can't we do that whether that sentence is in there or not? Is there some legal reason why we couldn't?
I don't know legal reason, but
I don't think there's any legal reason one way or the other.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I just don't see the point of having that in there. That's all.
All right. Well, I'll send this out to you.
So Jerry, hang on until Mike tells you to go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, you want to stop screen sharing now?
Yep.
Thank you.
Are we voting on this or?
Yes, a motion would be in order to place the ad in the newspaper.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, place the ad in the newspaper as soon as possible.
Motion by Mr. Forback to place the ad as soon as possible. I need a second. Second by Mr. Suchovich. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, another comment, whatever. First of all, I see that there's 2 hands up. And as I was trying to indicate in an email earlier this week, that we're voting on something and it wasn't specifically stated in the agenda that there was going to be a motion about this. And generally you want to allow the public to speak during this question and comment period between the second motion and the vote. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Yes.
I have a few questions as well, whenever.
All right, go ahead with your questions first, Dave, please.
Why was this plan only shared with all of council tonight and not shared with the public either previously?
Because not everything was finalized. And I wasn't going to share something that wasn't finalized until today.
Why not?
I thought I heard Mike say that he thought he did share it with everybody and that it was just a mistake.
No, that
No,
he's
no.
talking about my proposal. Why?
I shared the job description with everybody.
I appreciate what Mike has done to put together a draft job posting, and Nancy and I did work with him to get some corrections made, and I don't have an issue with the job posting as it stands currently. My issue is with an overall
With
plan,
me.
how we're going to conduct the hiring, the job search, and I don't think that has been done with all of council involved. It certainly hasn't been done with the public involved. We've had 3 weeks go by, and there's been no plan until now as to who's on the committee. Why won't we even consider an interim manager?
I just don't think, as I told you before, I don't think that it's financially feasible. And why are we only if you're going to do that, then you should interview multiple people for that position as well.
I have no problem with interviewing multiple people for an interim manager, but
so you're going to
have 30 days.
delay the whole thing.
We have 30 days to find someone, and I mean, if Mr. Kenna has agreed to stay on past January 30th, how long is that going to go? Is it just indefinite? Best case scenario, I'm estimating, if we post for 30 days, initial round of interviews with the committee only, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, maybe more. Second round of interviews, if council's involved, I don't know. Probably another 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the candidates. If we have to negotiate and make a final offer with someone, or multiple people are still, need to be decided upon, probably another couple weeks. And then if they have to, if we choose someone and they have to negotiate a start date, which may be 30 days, if they have to give notice to another municipality, because I know from looking at other boroughs' job descriptions that 30 days is typical notice for resigning from this position or terminating someone. I'm looking at the absolute best case would be 2 months from posting initial advertisement. Worst case would be 4 months or even more. And I think as Oakmont found out, it took them a lot longer. As Nancy talked to Mike Foreman at the State Department of Community and Economic Development, he advised that to budget at least 4 months. I think that this is exactly the type of situation where an interim manager would do a lot of good, and I don't think it would be costing us extra money. In fact, I think it would help the transition go more smoothly, to meet with Mr. Kenna and go over some of those things and in January and move on from there. And I'm seriously disappointed that this was done seemingly behind closed doors, and that this council won't even consider an interim manager, let alone not even considering Mr. Shields. And I think that's an insult to this community.
Thank you.
So here's my opinion on it, and I know several folks. We've heard you all about Doug Shields. Yes, I'm sure he's a great guy, and he has a lot of great experience in government, but he knows nothing about Verona. The issue that I have, and I'll be honest with people, I think it would be much smoother transition if you have somebody already that's in the position. They know the people, they know how things work and how to move on, then to have a smoother transition from that to a permanent person than spending additional money on somebody else who may or may not, sounds like it'd be good on paper, but I don't know whether I want to take that chance. We know what we have with somebody who's going to be there now and who has done the job. And it just seems like it'd be a lot smoother transition to do it that way. And as far as we will be transparent with this, we plan on being transparent on this whole process as we go forward on interviewing the folks, etc. And you're right, David, it might take a couple months. I mean, you know what, and if it takes longer than that, then yes, I would all be all for it. Let's look for an interim person that maybe we need to go beyond that. But I think for the short term, I think we're okay to go the course that we are with allowing Jerry to continue until we at least have a chance to find this. And I'm not saying rush for this position. We're not going to rush through this and take the first person that submits a resume. Some of us have some experience hiring people. Yes, I think that was mentioned earlier. Do we have that? Yes. We've gone through this. So I just think that, and I heard everybody tonight, but I also heard from other constituents too that are concerned about the way that they're just putting somebody in there. So I have to think about the borough as a whole, not just one person or whatever. So that's why I really think that it'd be a smoother transition with allowing Jerry just to be there for a month or two extra.
I have to agree with Mike as well. I think, Marcia, she's strong in the office too. She can answer the phone. She directs things as it is. I think, with the transition, I think we need somebody who works with the people that we have now, who knows the borough, who knows what's going on, will help the person that is hired move on to the next, into that position. That's my feelings.
Well, I just want to say that I don't think it's going to cost any extra money. We're either going to be paying Jerry or we're going to be paying somebody else. So to me, that is a wash. It might be a few dollars more if the person who could potentially be an interim borough manager is working more in a full-time temporary capacity. But I think we can absorb that cost. When it comes to Doug Shields, we would save money because he doesn't need any kind of insurance. But I'm not going to insist on it being that person. But I do think that the borough would be better served by someone who can just devote their time just to Verona. Jerry, I'm not trying to say anything negative toward you. I'm just thinking that in the beginning of the year, it's tax season. You have a company, you prepare people's taxes, and that takes up a lot of your time in the first 4 months of the year. So there's that. And I'd also like to address the fact that this process and this plan, Pat, that you're proposing, when we're going through processes of other types, council generally is informed. I don't think that we should be set aside and only be able to have the final conclusion of whatever you're proposing, and then we're being surprised. I mean, I didn't know what your plan was. People from the public were trying to get in touch with you and you didn't share with them what your plan was. People have been asking for a plan. So this is a plan, and it's not a plan I personally am in favor of. Because I think it's confusing. I think that it's does not answer the best needs of the borough for the next 4 months through the end of April. And I don't think that it costs more money. To me, it's a wash. And so I'd like all of that to be considered, but I am very disappointed that not only as a member of council, but as the vice president, that you choose not to share your information with all of us. Now, obviously, some people on council had information that you were going to have this plan. Clearly, Mike knew because he's writing the advertisement. And basically, Dave and I just sort of commented on the advertisement. But why didn't we continue to work together like we were on the job description, which also, in my opinion, is not complete. There are
No,
many
it's not.
other edits
So
that are coming.
as far as the advertisement goes, Nancy, I mean, we wanted to get this as posted as soon as possible. I had it written 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, it's
know.
like, I wanted to get this done. That's
Yeah,
why,
so
that's
did
why I
I.
was pushing it.
Mike, I suggested that the three of us get together and in 30 minutes, we could have pounded this out. 30 minutes, I'm sure of it. But instead,
I
we
had
went
all your
back and
comments.
forth and back and forth with email over the holiday instead of just having a quick 30-minute meeting and consolidating all of our suggestions in one, and then we could have had it done. But we also need to all see it, and we need to vote on putting it out as a group. And people are just seeing it tonight. And a lot of us are just hearing the plan tonight. Not a fan.
Well, the job posting, I mean, Mike, I agree, you know, getting that together, getting it out quickly, okay, but that's one small component of a larger plan, a larger process to hire someone, and there was no discussion about what that plan was and what it was going to entail, how long we expected it to take, who was going to be involved in the search committee, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's members of the public asked a lot of good questions tonight that are just now coming, you know, those answers to those questions are just now coming to light. And, you know, that's where I think we could have worked together better earlier on, as soon as we knew that Mr. Kenna was resigning and that the clock was ticking.
No matter who we get, they're going to be new to the borough. But I'm going to make a comment about that. Mr. Shields is not new to Verona. He has spent time here. He knows the area. He knows a lot of the people here. And when I asked him a few questions, for instance, if you become our interim manager, would you be able to find or help us find a manager? And he said, absolutely, that would be my first priority. And he said, I know of people who are extremely qualified and who would do a very good job. And you won't need to pay to advertise. He would do it for free. It would be part of his job. And the other thing is, I don't understand why, as a borough, we're supposed to work together. And as a council, we're supposed to work together. We had 3 people at the meeting when Mr. Shields was here on the Zoom meeting. Where was everybody else? Why would you not give him just a chance and hear him out? I don't understand that. I was very happy to do it. I didn't know him, but I was absolutely glad to hear what he had to say. I didn't see anybody else except the 3 of us, Dave, Nancy, and myself. Nobody else
and
was
the
there.
mayor, Janet was there before you got there, and then she left and you came in and the mayor was there.
Well, I like to speak.
Then I'll
I like to
apologize.
speak.
Janet, I'll apologize. I did not know you were there early, so my correction. But I don't understand, why can't we just work together?
So I'd like to speak to why I wasn't there.
We're not working as a team. I'm sorry, we're not.
Yeah, and I want to speak because this was brought up, you know, specifically my name, why I wasn't at this meeting. I am working in consulting. I had a project due that was due the end of the last week, and I had to work, so I was not there. Sorry.
Well, we had actually 2 meetings, Mike. The community group had a meeting with him. We first had a meeting with him, and then the community did. And I don't know, doesn't our community have any kind of say so in this? I mean, they voted us in, and I don't think we're complying with anything they want. I don't understand this. I just think this is not a fair way to do it. I really don't. I think everybody should have heard him and then made their decisions. That did not happen.
I was told through an email that this was a Sunshine Act and I couldn't be there. That's why I wasn't there. So to answer that, that's why I wasn't there. And the second of all, to answer other people, I never said I was for or against Mr. Shields. People are putting it out there that I don't like the guy. I don't even know the guy. So how do I even say I'm for him or against him?
Oh, Ray,
people are speaking for me. That's not true. And that's wrong. Nobody, not one person has called me and asked my opinion. I found out about this interview committee like a day and a half, 2 days ago, if I would be on this committee. Other than that, not one person has called me. Not one person. So I don't want to hear anybody say that I'm being sneaky, because I'm not. I'm an open book.
All right,
So
so
if
how
anybody
about
that
this?
knows me, they can call me.
Ray, I
All
did
right.
not insinuate that. That is not what I
Well,
said.
that's what everybody's insinuating. And it gets
I
old
was
sitting
not-
here
I
being
said
accused of
everybody
stuff
should
that
have
you
been
didn't
there.
do.
All I said was that everybody should have been there to hear the man out. That's
I
all
agree.
said.
And if you couldn't be there, or there is a sunshine issue, which I would like to get clarified tonight if we could at some point, solicitor, because every time we start an email thing and then we can't discuss it, I'm not sure if that's true. But before we get to that, I just want to say, you know, Mr. Shields would be open to meeting with people who were not able to come whenever it was that we had the meeting before. If you would be interested in talking with him and meeting with him, I think that's an option. You know, that's not something that is a done deal as of tonight, doesn't have to be. We have until January 30th or January 15th or whatever we want to make the time. If we wanted to have someone, not Doug or not Doug Shields, come in a week before Jerry's resignation date, then there could be overlap between that person and Jerry. But I would like to say that right now, the way things are when we voted on December 8th to accept Jerry's resignation as of January 30th, I don't think that we can just have a motion that says, well, we'll just keep Jerry until whenever we find a borough manager. That's a little too loose for my comfort. And I don't remember us having a motion that's saying we're gonna change Jerry's resignation date. So this is all very confusing to me from a legal standpoint as well as from other standpoints.
Well,
I'd
my
like to say
concern,
something.
go ahead.
I'm going to give you my opinion. I've been here a long time, longer than any one of you on the board. I've been through this many times with many different boards, the arguments. You don't get anywhere. It just divides this board more and more. And that's what it's doing. I think what you're doing to the borough manager is you're putting him under pressure. You're making him, in my opinion, look bad because the man said he is resigning at the end of January. It is up to this entire board. Every one of you should have got together and says, okay, we need to do something and we need to do it now, whether it's put somebody in temporarily or start putting the ad out as soon as possible. It's been what, 3 weeks and still the ad hasn't gone out. There is a person that wants to come in. I was there at that meeting. It snowed that night. I had to leave at 6:30 to go back to work, but I did attend that. I don't know the man. He was very impressive. He does not want the job full time. He did say he would come in, help, this board, work with the borough manager and help get this board a new borough manager. There ain't one of you on this board, including myself, that know anything about hiring a borough manager. And that's the honest truth. There's different organizations, and I can't remember the gentleman, Nancy, who's the gentleman that works, he said he would help, he works for the government.
Oh, Michael Foreman,
Yeah,
whatever
Mike
you're talking about. Yeah, from DCED, yeah.
And I
Yes,
talked to
he
Alon,
was very
Nancy.
good there too. And it was brought up by Mr. McCarthy to get in touch with these people. And apparently you did, and nothing went, nothing went forward. It should have gone forward. Like I said, in my opinion, you're putting Mr. Kenna on the spot because he resigned at the end of the month, meaning that, he wants to be done, but he wants to continue doing the end of the finance of the borough. And I have no problem with that. And I hear the residents, they said, they would like to see Mr. Shields come in. I have no problem with that. But, the board should have found somebody in the last 3 weeks of, rather than just one person, like was stated. And somebody had said, well, I heard the opposite. They would like to, put out for another person to come in temporarily. But I don't see them, chiming in like the other residents did, against Mr. Shields and saying, hey, let's look for somebody else. You got a man that's willing to come in, use his experience, and let's move forward instead of the damn arguments that we have constantly about this. Move forward. It's been 3 weeks, and I don't know who said it, but by the time the advertisement goes out, you're going to have to wait 2 to 3 weeks before the applications come back. You're going to have to go through them, start calling people in. It's going to take a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour to interview each person. You may get 5, 6 people come. So there's more time, wasted. Now, if you hire somebody, now they got to give anywhere from a 2 to 3 week notice to their employee. So now we're into February. And I don't think it's fair for Mr. Kenna, to be put in that position, especially at this time of year for him. And that's my opinion. This board needs to get their act together and work together. And somebody needs to make a motion one way or the other to hire this guy or not to hire this guy. That's my opinion. Let's move on. We have bigger and better things to do. Thank you.
Dave, I did call ALOM, I will tell you that. And the gentleman that handles that type of work was willing to either do a Zoom or come out in person. And it went nowhere. I put it on the table and it never moved anywhere.
Make a motion. Lisa, make a motion. If there's a motion on the board,
Isn't there a
at
motion?
least the public sees that he's doing something.
Yeah.
It's already a motion. And it's either a yes or no vote.
There's a motion on the floor to put the advertisement out pending council all being aware of the final copy that Mike's going to send out.
Right.
And that's fine. That wouldn't preclude a future motion that you're talking about, Dave. It wouldn't preclude that.
And I understand that. But if you people want Mr. Shields to come in, make a motion. If you don't want him in, then the ones that don't want him in, they'll say no as the motion's made. Or make it for somebody else, the person that you want to come in. If you want somebody else to come in immediately, then do it. Make a motion. Don't keep arguing over one person. Either make a motion to get this person in or make a motion to get another person in temporarily until we find a full-time borough manager. It's real simple.
Why don't you make a motion?
I've been in business 30 years. I don't see what the problem is here.
We have to finish this motion first, right?
Yes.
But you do make a motion to bring him in and interview him as a whole, and then see if there's any other candidates that might want to come in as an interim, and then interview them. Exactly. And then make the decision that way. It's an easier search probably to find an interim than it is to find a full-blown manager. And if the difference in council is that you're not sure about Doug Shields, I mean, some of you didn't meet him, interview him. I think it would be, he deserves his time on the floor, so interview him. If there's any other candidates that are interested, interview them and make a decision, make a motion.
Let's finish the motion that's on the floor right now.
Exactly.
To advertise.
There are 5 people waiting to be heard about this particular motion.
All right.
Go through those? Okay.
So the motion on the floor is to place the advertisement for a regular full-time borough manager. Much of council's discussion went elsewhere, but the comments from the public would be relevant to the motion on the floor at this time. If another motion's made or something like that's made, those public comments can be made at that time. But the public does have the right to comment on motions that are made that aren't on the agenda. So with that said.
So these comments would be related to the ad posting?
Ad posting.
The ad posting, yes.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's good.
What?
That's good to know because a couple of people did take their hands down, but we still have 3 people who want to speak to the actual motion on the floor currently.
Okay, so first is Dan Showalter.
Hi guys, Dan Showalter, 440 North Avenue. I was looking for clarification on when the end date is on receiving applications for the borough manager position. did I hear correctly that it is January 30th would be the end date?
That was a suggestion that I made. It's not written in stone by any stretch of the imagination, but I was giving people 4 months for us to collect resumes.
4 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, what did
So
I
if
say?
we-
4 months? I'm sorry, I meant 4 weeks. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so if we take applications up to January 30th, we are basically telling Jerry right now that we're going to need you to stay on beyond January 30th because we will still be taking applications up until the date that he resigns on. Again, I understand Jerry does taxes and this is the busy time of his season. I think it would be very irresponsible of the borough to almost force a man to take on a job when he has other responsibilities for his private business. Again, that would be completely up to Jerry, but it sounds like you're forcing his hand. He wants out and you're basically pushing him back in. So anyways, that's my comment.
Thank you.
Next would be Kim Roller.
Hello again, Kim Roller. I wanted to echo actually Dan's comment because I don't understand. And number one, President McCarthy, I don't understand why, if you had this plan in place, that Mr. Kenna would stay on past and that you'd have the 30th. I really don't understand why that wasn't shared with the borough that you, sir, serve. And additionally, with everybody on this council, it seems like some people were left in the lurch. Some phone calls weren't being answered. So my question is, one, why is that date the same date that Mr. Kenna leaves when, if I read correctly, it said that Mr. Kenna was one of the people who would get the resumes. So he would basically then gather the resumes and then leave. If somebody replied on the 30th, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me as somebody who's hired people in her previous job. And again, Mr. Kenna, I obviously didn't get to work with you a whole lot. For a hot second, I got to know you, but if somebody tried to make me do something above and beyond what I signed up for in the summer when my job season becomes peak, I would have a difficulty balancing both my family life and my personal life and work and all of these things all at once. And until we have an appropriate job description for Mr. Kenna past that date, as well as a monetary answer, say it's going to cost us, if Mr. Kenna stays past that point that we've hired somebody, is it going to be 1 month worth of the borough manager's salary paid to Mr. Kenna for every month that we go as we're continuing to look? We need to button those items up first before I think we can just do anything else. So I kind of just want to express my unhappiness really with the way that this has been going, because that job description again has been 3 weeks. Additionally, I just can't believe that this borough has been dragging their feet knowing that we needed a full-time borough manager and not having it posted, ready and raring to go. Thank you.
Next would be Joey Warren. Go ahead, Joe, you're muted.
Jerry, am I on?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just caught up to the meeting. I wasn't here from the beginning, but it sounds like this is being done out of order to what should have happened over the last 3 weeks for getting somebody in place. I'm not sure. I think I missed it at the beginning, but who prepared what's being voted on right now? What council members or what committee had prepared it initially and provided it to the other members of council, I guess is a question I'd like to have answered. And just a comment in general about, the timeline doesn't seem to me making sense. 3 weeks have passed. We're about a month out from Jerry moving forward with his resignation and having to replace somebody. And it seems like an interim would make more sense, but it seems like there's being rushed to have a manager in place. So I guess the question to get me up to speed is who prepared what is being voted on right now, President? Thank you.
So Joey, to answer your question, my understanding is that Mike prepared the advertisement at the direction of the president, Mr. McCarthy. So the first that I knew about it was when Mr. Forbeck wrote an email and said, here's an advertisement for full-time borough manager. So
that's
there
not-
was no
exact-
committee. There was no committee that was asked to do the advertisement.
No, what happened was that there was that Dave, Nancy, and I were charged with writing a job description for the borough manager. And that's what we were doing. We were drafting that out. It's back and forth. It's still in draft form. That went to all the council. I said I would take a crack at doing the ad because we wanted that's more important to get that in, especially after the last meeting, to get the ad out before that we don't have to have the finalization of the job description. We could get the ad out and start getting resumes in as we develop the job description. So Dave, Nancy, and I developed that ad after I first drafted it. I had run it past Craig. I did not pass it to the whole council before it was finalized, but that was where we stood with that. So we wanted to get this ad out. It's sort of, and with the holidays, that's why we are here now.
Thank you, Jerry. Am I on microphone? So thank you. I appreciate it. So this is the piece, Mike, that you had ready at the last meeting 3 weeks ago. Is that the same piece you're saying? Because I guess I'm confused with the content of an advertisement versus the content of the role to be fulfilled, like the position itself. So I know people say like a cart ahead of the horse. I'm not sure what to even think of this. I don't even know what good question to ask. It doesn't make sense to me.
The job description was what we were working on three weeks ago. The ad came about the last couple of weeks.
Okay. I guess it still doesn't make sense to me for what's happened in the last 3 weeks with all the council for where we are today, for us to be in a position to have somebody new after Jerry moves on from his role. I guess my statement's more of a question. I don't understand how this has happened or how we landed at where we are 3 weeks later with a month to go to fill a position. And I guess I'll just end by saying, I think an interim borough manager would make best sense. I think if in that time that there's overlap, hopefully this is done quicker than not, the person who's in the interim can ask Jerry, who I'm sure is a wealth of knowledge for things that need to operate, how they operate, for them to work with Jerry as soon as possible as an interim. And if that person can also be an assistance to fulfilling the role permanently, more the better. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. Thanks, Jerry.
And I mean, I just want to say, I don't think anybody here disagrees with having an interim person. It's just that who would that person be? Could it be Jerry that could continue into that interim position until we finally sign somebody? So I think everybody here understands we have to have somebody in that position before we do a full-time manager.
And we've dealt with this for the last couple of years with Jerry doing his taxes in this season, and it's been going very well. So I just figured that is the best way to proceed.
Next is either Dawn or Rhoda Wharf or both maybe.
Hi, Rhoda Wharf, 636 3rd Street, Verona. I'm going to have to agree with Jerry. Jerry, you had a great idea. I think all of you should listen, that start interviewing for an interim and be done with it. And then in the meantime, you have the luxury of time to, to find someone qualified. And we have all these people that are willing to help us. There's Mr. Foreman. Jerry having the knowledge that, he's held this position for, a couple of years. I don't understand. Doug is willing to help.
Doug is ready and waiting.
Yeah, I don't understand what the problem is here. You guys are making a bigger problem than it needs to be.
And there's also ALOM that's willing to help as well. And Local Government Academy. We could probably find an interim if we choose not to use Doug Shields in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Hey, like I said, go with Jerry's idea. Let everyone, advertise it, call Doug. All of you sit on the interview and be done with it. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Next is Stephanie Garrett.
Hello, thank you for taking me. So I think what really resonates with me with this whole borough manager thing is Pat's comment about people are going to be mad, and basically it is what it is. No, Pat, it isn't. It is what it is. You've got the whole town at your heels. You have not answered anybody. You have not talked to anybody. Half of you, no, most of you have not responded to my emails about the whole borough manager position. Dave Matlin wrote me back. That's the one person who wrote me back. Ray, you were tagged in those emails as well. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that none of you have listened to your constituents. And the only answer we get is, no, we don't think Doug Shields is a good fit. I wonder why. Do some politics have to play into that? I'm not for Doug Shields either way. If he works, he works. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But the whole fact that everybody sat here and listened to the town, you've gotten phone calls, you've gotten emails, and nobody has had anything to say except for at this meeting, and now we're going to decide to vote on something. That's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. You guys need to start listening. Elections are coming up. I've told you this time and time again. And for the third or maybe fourth time, I'm going to ask, why are you here? If not to listen to your constituents. Thank you.
Next would be Laura Jacko.
Hi, and I just wanted to say something as far as like the motion that's on the floor at the moment. I think that like something has been said about how, like, you know, well, we've been making Jerry work for the past couple of years, even in the busy season, you know, he can still stay on as interim. I don't think that that's actually necessarily true, because we're actually adding more to Jerry's plate right now. And even Jerry was suggesting that this isn't a bad idea to look for an interim. Like, we're adding extra duties on top of what he would already have been doing, which is looking for a borough manager on top of everything else. So we're putting an extra burden on top of this gentleman in his busiest season. That would probably make, if I was him, I would probably be going bananas over that. You know, and at this point, the job is supposed to be a full-time job. So no, he can't do this at this time because he cannot take on a full-time job on top of his other full-time job. Jerry is a nice enough dude. I don't know him that well. We've had some interactions, but I don't want to kill him by giving him 2 full-time jobs to do. And then also, you know, take on this additional responsibility of, you know, looking for a full-time manager to replace him on top of it. This poor man has done a lot. Like, let's just accept the help that we have. Look, you know, make this, you know, and I agree. Let's make this posting for an interim manager. You know, I like Doug. He's great, but sure, let's see if there's maybe another person. You know, have everybody interview him. I am all for an open and transparent process. Let's do it. Let's do the thing. Let's do it right, and let's not make poor Jerry, you know, do things that are just inconceivable for him to be able to actually do. That's my comment on the motion that's on the floor right now.
All right. And next will be Mr. Floda.
Hello, Vince Floda, 323 Penn Street again. I do agree with posting this job posting as soon as possible. I don't agree with the date. I think that the date should maybe be a week or two before Jerry has to leave, so that way you can use that week or two to make sure that you look at all the applications and get a person in the position before Jerry is gone. If you have the date at January 20th and that's Jerry's last day, it's kind of asking a lot for someone who applied for the job to show up on the 21st. So that's what I have to say. And I also want to to point out that if Jerry can be a full-time manager until we find a full-time manager, then so be it. But I don't feel that that's the case. So, thank you.
Okay. And next would be Jennifer Marasco.
Hi, Jen Marasco Coon, 455 North Avenue. Mr. Forbeck, you mentioned that you've had this ad potentially ready for 3 weeks, but you didn't have the respect to share it with your entire council before tonight when you're going to be voting on it. I just don't understand how you all are working together. You were supposed to be on the same page. I mean, this is just very embarrassing and disrespectful of all of you and of our town. I mean, even if it wasn't supposedly done 3 weeks ago, like you said tonight, it should have been sent before the meeting tonight, just like the agendas should be posted for the community when we attend these meetings so we know what we're going to be hearing about and what we're going to be discussing. This is a very poor display of leadership. And I understand we're in weird times, but that is no excuse. And the holidays, still no excuse. You all have sat here for an hour, 2 hours, saying how this should have been done with post haste. However, you haven't finalized it and you're just sending it out tonight. So that's just very, very disturbing. And you all are not on the same page. And I mean, Jerry's sitting here telling you he agrees with the interim borough manager. It makes sense to get that in place, whether you like Doug Shields or somebody else. They should be trained by Jerry and get to know everyone. And then Jerry will leave at his resignation date before his start of the busy season. And then you look for a long-term replacement who will hopefully be with us for years to come. Okay, and then they can learn the job at the pace that they need to take it in, not rushing it because Jerry's resigning and because tax season's coming up. You know, you people need to get your act together. This is just very disturbing.
So the job description was shared with everybody, Jennifer. The ad was an administrative ad that was simply just to put in the newspaper. So that's what happened there.
But I mean, the difference, ad, job description.
It's a lot of difference.
That should have been, that's being discussed tonight, should be given to all of the people on council so they know what they're talking about and that they are well versed in it. They should come to the meeting and be surprised and have to be screenshotted on a Zoom call. I mean, you were up and down, back and forth. You couldn't even read it. It's a whole page. You should just give due diligence to the other council members like you should give the community. I'm just very ashamed.
Okay. That's it for comments on that.
Okay. I've lost my place. We've had the first and the second now questions. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Would you please review the motion?
If I remember the motion correctly, was to advertise this as quickly as possible for the manager's position.
Motion first by Mr. Forbeck,
It
second.
was first by Mr. Forbeck and second by Mr. Suchovich. Was that correct?
I got Janet.
I don't recall whether it was Janet or Ray. I don't recall.
It was Mr.
Okay. I'm sorry. What was it, Jerry?
Ray. It was Mr. Suchovich.
Oh, it was Ray. Okay.
Okay.
So one other thing. So it's been brought up now about the deadline, and I'm not clear whether we want to keep it at January 30th. I always thought that you had to give 3 or 4 weeks to collect resumes. Do we want to make it a shorter time? How do we want to proceed with the deadline?
Why don't you make it January 20th? It'll go in the paper hopefully tomorrow. That'll give you 3 weeks.
Okay, so I just.
January 20th would be the cutoff date to receive them.
Right, so then the motion would be to put the advertisement out tomorrow and have the deadline for resumes be the 20th of January. Now we're a little more concrete with what we're doing.
Now, is this for full-time or interim, Nancy?
This is the full
This is the
This is
full-time
full-time.
advertisement. We'll move on to the other thing in a minute, I guess.
That, that's full-time.
Right.
Okay.
To that effect?
What's that, Craig?
I said, Mike, is Mike willing to amend his motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to put the ad in as soon as possible with the change of January 20th.
And Raymond, would you amend your second?
Or mute, but
I read your lips. You said I amend my second.
Okay. So the
Sorry
motion's
about
been
that. I
amended.
amend my second.
The motion's been amended by Mr. Forback. It's been amended second by Mr. Suchovich. Are there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes?
No.
No, Mr. Mallon. We need a
roll call.
roll call.
Okay. Mr. President,
Yes.
Dr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Matlin,
No.
Ms. Provenza,
Yes.
Mr. Suchovich,
Yes.
Ms. Loalba, Mr. Forbeck.
Yes.
It passes 6-1.
Okay.
Okay, so are we still talking now about borough manager and our plan going forward? Is that the topic of discussion?
As far as full-time or part-time or?
Well, we need a plan and it's been suggested that we make a motion about a plan for an interim borough manager by many people. So I'd like to make that motion.
To hire an interim borough manager.
But now
Well,
I need a little help with this because
I'm asking a question, Nancy. That's all I want to clarify with you.
Yeah.
You want to make a motion
Yes.
to hire an interim borough manager while we're advertising for a full-time manager. Is that correct?
Yes, but I don't have the precise wording right now in this exact moment. I could use some help in terms of whether I should make a motion specifically for Doug Shields. Should I make the motion to be for an interim manager in general, just for the concept, and then maybe contingent on everybody on council interviewing Doug Shields and one or two other candidates that we might be able to come up with in the next week or so through the help of DCED, ALOM, and LGA.
I think your motion probably should be that you make a motion to interview Doug Shields and however many other candidates anybody might bring to the table.
Good.
With the end result being that we potentially or are going to hire one of those people, hopefully by, I don't know, at least give them a week to overlap with you so that you can clue them in on what they'll be doing for the next couple of months.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the process in order to bring on an interim, I think it needs to be a process. I don't know Doug Shields. I wasn't part of that interview or meeting. I think that the right thing to do would be to interview any possible candidates as a possible interim. I think the process in order to bring on an interim is going to be much simpler and quicker than a full-time manager that's going to be hopefully here for many, many years. So I think that putting together, or even just word of mouth, let's try to get your contacts together and see if anybody's interested through the LGA, DCED. I think that it would be smart to work with, maybe Craig knows some people because he deals with all these different municipalities. Maybe Matt knows some people. He deals with all these different municipalities. See if there's anybody interested, interview them, and then make a decision. And if it takes a week or two longer to hire an interim, I think that process is still going to be faster than it is to hire a full-time. So in that case, maybe, extending my time here might be a week or 2 weeks. And I think that would be a compromise that would make everybody a little bit more comfortable with it than an indefinite extension of my time here until we find a full-time manager. It's a compromise that I think everybody could be happy with. And maybe we can all get on the same page with this and try to find somebody to take over.
Okay. Good thoughts, Jerry. Thank you.
That
So
was very good.
I'd like to make the motion that we interview several candidates for an interim borough manager with a strong consideration that we would hire one of them before the end of January to take over on an interim basis as borough manager.
I'll second it, Nancy.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Dr. Carpenter to hire an interim, interim borough people for interim borough manager, second by Mrs. Provenza. Are there any questions? I have one. Are we going to set a time limit for that? Interim manager to start?
We could.
Yeah, what about the 20th? It'll give them a week.
The 20th or the 15th. I don't know. Any other thoughts?
Well, I just think that if you don't put the timeline on it, you're in the same boat. You may as well just stay with Jerry as the interim until you hire a full-time. That's why I'm saying, put a time limit on it.
But Jerry said he was going to have a compromise, the time period. So, I mean, if whatever date you make, if it's just a week or more longer, it shouldn't be a big deal, right?
So then make it January 30th. And then that way it gives you a little bit more time and it doesn't extend Jerry that much longer.
I think you should probably make applications or at least identify your candidates by maybe January 20th. Maybe try to get interviews done by the 30th. And that way we have a week or two into February where I need to be hands-on with this person to get them up and running. But it doesn't extend it too far.
Okay, so what I would do then is amend my motion to say interview candidates for interim borough manager and have the deadline for letters of interest be by January 20th.
Yeah.
At the latest. If we come up with several candidates easily before that, then that's fine. But we'd say January 20th at the latest for letters of interest for interim borough manager.
And the motion's been amended for the interim manager to have applications in by the 20th of January. Mrs. Provenza, would you amend your second?
I'll amend it.
Mrs. Provenza amended her second. Are there any other questions? No other questions. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any noes? No noes. Motion passed. Okay.
Okay, so we have a plan now. That's wonderful.
Okay. Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was requested to bring up a couple of items to speak on tonight. We just passed the budget a little bit ago, and concurrent with passing the budget, council is required to enact a tax ordinance and incorporate the budget into the tax ordinance. So I prepared that ordinance at Jerry's direction and got it advertised into the newspaper. It's an order of the Borough of Verona, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, enacting, fixing, and levying the real estate tax rate within the Borough of Verona for the year 2021 at a rate of 7 0.8 mils, and that's the same tax rate that we've had for years, no tax increase. A motion to enact that ordinance would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Carpenter for the tax ordinance, second by Mrs. Provenza. Are there any questions? No questions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any noes? No noes. Motion passed.
So the second thing that I was asked to speak on, Jerry alluded to earlier, Allegheny County has requested that we enter into a winter maintenance agreement with them with regard to the boulevard. And the county requires that the borough pass an ordinance, a resolution directing that the proper officials enter that agreement. I've reviewed the agreement, everything's in order, and have prepared the resolution. It's a resolution of the Borough of Verona, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, authorizing the appropriate officials to enter into a winter maintenance agreement with the Allegheny County.
Allegheny County or PennDOT?
PennDOT, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, somebody needs to make a motion to accept the maintenance agreement with PennDOT.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
All right, there's the motion by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mr. Matlin. Are there any questions? No questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? No noes. Motion passed. A resolution.
Thank you. One final thing I did want to, I don't remember if it was said or not. I just wanted to announce that we had a executive session immediately preceding tonight's meeting to speak on legal issues. And that's all I have, Mr. President. I just want to wish everybody on Mayor and Council a very happy New Year and all the residents of the Borough of Verona.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Matlin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything on the agenda. I'd just like to thank the Public Works crew for the recent snowstorms. We had a couple, one that was especially big, and I was actually out driving up through the Allegheny Valley that night, and our roads were by far the best maintained roads as far as snow removal and salting that evening of any town I saw. So I think that's something for us to be proud of, and to thank the guys whenever you see them, and just keep it in mind that they do a good job with that. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, I sent to council along the lines of this job description, various job descriptions that we've talked about. I sent out an org chart that I had put together based on the meeting that Mike and Nancy and I had to review the job description for borough manager, and I just wanted to remind council and let me know if there's any comments or questions about it. I'd like to, I think in the new year, I'd like to try to get that finalized as we look towards a new borough manager. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Carpenter.
All right, thank you. Nothing too much. Update on ordinances. We did not have an ordinance meeting this month. We will be having one on the 4th Tuesday of January. And we'll be starting to look at some ordinances that we didn't get to last year regarding possible electronic signs, possibly for park hours, and also looking at parking fines. So those are some potential ordinances that we'll start working on in the new year. The other thing that I'm going to be working on is codifying the ordinances that have been passed in 2020 and the last half of 2019. So that they would go into E-Code 360. That's quite a process. Marcia's been very helpful with that the last time we did it. So we need to get them into the Eco 360 so that they're available for people to look at when they want to look them up. And I would say, other than that, unless people have any questions or suggestions for ordinances that they want to see passed, you can either tell me now or email me and let me know. And I just want to ditto thanking the guys who run the snow plows and the salt. They do an excellent job. I think everybody in this town knows that we have the best roads ever. I want to thank everybody for your open-mindedness and willingness to be flexible tonight on everything we've discussed. And I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And let's bring in 2021. And I do want to thank Jerry and acknowledge that Jerry's been working under a lot of stress with some losses in his family over the holiday season. So despite all that, I know you're doing the best you can. So thank you, Jerry, for,
Thanks, Nancy.
you know, for what you've been trying to do over the last few weeks. So, and thank everybody for all your work, really. Honestly, you know, we're not perfect. We need to make improvements. We need to work more together, but everybody is doing something. So I appreciate that. And thank you to the solicitor and our engineer and our mayor. So just a big thank you all around to everybody who's volunteering out there in the community. So thank you. Happy New Year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Forback.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is one thing, speaking of ordinance, Nancy, we do have to finalize the job description, and it has to be placed in the ordinance, amend the ordinance. So that should be done by January, I think, before we start interviewing folks. So let's just keep that on our radar.
Yeah, let's get together on email tomorrow and come up with a couple of times that might work for us to meet. And you're absolutely right. Mr. Alexander will be helping with putting that into ordinance form.
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to the borough crew for doing a wonderful job every year. Fantastic. And wish everybody a very happy new year to you and your families. It has to be a lot better than 2020, and looking forward to 2021. And speaking of time, there was the time capsule was delivered to the committee for the 150th. It was donated by Heritage Environmental along with Lee Piping, who fabricated a time capsule that will be used for the 150th anniversary. So that is in the History Center and for use for the celebration coming up. So thank you all for your volunteer work that you do for the borough, and have a let's go 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sotrovich.
Not too much. The budget is done and passed, thank God. Thanks for everybody's help. I know there was a lot of meetings and phone calls and everything about it. I know Nancy and Jerry and Dave spent a lot of time at meetings, so thanks for that. I just want to bring up this borough crew myself. I worked for the Turnpike on snow removal for 32.5 years. I just retired last week. And people don't realize what these guys do and the hours they put in. But there's some people in this town that don't realize when they got the streets cleared and they're throwing their snow from their driveways out where the guy's already shoveled and plowed and salted. We shouldn't be doing that, folks, because it freezes up. I'm just giving this out to the whole borough. See a lot of people doing that. It freezes up and then the guys get complaints that the snow's not removed from the roads. So let's try to keep that in mind. Also, we took the kids around. We took Santa around for the kids. And some of our streets are pretty darn tight, really tight. and there's a couple streets we couldn't get our fire engines up and down. So my point being, and I know when there's snow out on the road, that it's hard to park. For the public, try to get your car up as close as you can to the curb. I've seen people park on angles. We couldn't, if we had an emergency going down through the streets, we'd have trouble. So just a heads up, keep the streets clean, don't throw your snow and debris out in the middle of the street, and try to get your car as close as you can to the curb. Other than that, I want to thank the street crew, and I'd like to thank everybody that's put a lot of extra time in on the budget and all their committees this year, and wish everybody a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Alba.
Thank you, Mr. President. Currently on the Rec Board, Verona Parks and Rec Board, there are 3 board members whose terms will expire on December 31st. All 3 of the current board members expressed wishes that they would like to continue on the board and for a term of for 5 more years. That being, it's Timothy Long, Laura Jacko, and Rhea Homa. So I would like to make a motion to, should I do individually? All 3?
I think you can do all 3 at one time.
I would like to make a motion to reappoint Timothy Long, Rhea Homa, and Laura Jacko to a 5-year term beginning January 1st of 2021, and that appointment will expire of 12/31 of 2025.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, the motion was made to reinstate 3 people to the Rec Board by Ms. Alba, second by Dr. Carpenter. Are there any questions? No questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? No noes. Motion passed.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. All 3 of them have done a great. Laura and Rhea were on just this year, but their contributions to the Rec Board has been really significant, and Tim has been on there for quite some time too. So welcome, guys, back on. Also, they did have on the 18th, they did the drive-in movie, and they had about 12 cars, and the families that attended had a really good time. And also we are, to just a reminder to keep Riverbank open, on the days where the weather is decent, so the kids and families can have a place to go to. At least we have one park that's open. If that's fine with everybody, as we had suggested. Other than that, I wish everybody a really happy, healthy, safe 2021. Thank you all too for all the volunteers, our street crew, everybody on, hopefully 2021 will help us all get together, look at what we've had in the past and regroup and bring on future success to Verona. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Provenza.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, everyone. I'll start with newsletter. Your newsletter should be in your mailbox in the next few days. And we are now getting ready for our spring edition, and that's going to include April, May, and June. So we are ready to start taking articles. It's never too early because it's quite a bit of work to get everything in on time. So you can send your articles to our editor, Donald Worf, at his email address, which is veronanewsroom@gmail.com, and I will be glad to take any ads, and I can be reached at 412-828-9542. Chamber of Commerce, I spoke with Kevin, and of course there hasn't been anything going on because of COVID. You can't get too many people together, but we will be mailing out renewal letters in January and for membership into the chamber again. And Kevin said to please extend from the entire Chamber of Commerce a very happy and healthy new year to everybody. Historical Society, all meetings are still canceled until further notice. And if you want any other information, you can always go to the website, which is veronahistory.org, and there's sometime information on there. Twin Boroughs, Community Ministries, There will be no dinner tomorrow as they normally do the last Wednesday of the month. And what they're doing this month, which will actually take us into January, they will be doing a pantry day, which if anyone needs any food, please call Judy Myers, and her telephone number is 412-828-7394. You must have an appointment, and then you can stop by the church, and they will be very glad to, they'll have a box prepared. They'll be very happy to give you the food that they have set up for the people. And I thank the Twin Borough Ministries. They have been wonderful with our people, and they do a great service to many. There are many needs, and they certainly help to fill those needs. So to our Twin Borough Ministries, thank you so much. You are greatly appreciated. And on Saturday, December 19th, we had our Verona Community Christmas Parade, and I had so many wonderful comments on it. People were so happy, not only the younger people, but even the older people. And this was such a great thing for our children, because everybody's so constricted now with COVID. They were able to get out on their porches or on their sidewalk and see Santa. And I just want to thank our Mayor Dave for putting all this together, for our fire department. Thank you, Ray, and your men. And our police department, thank you so much. You've done a wonderful thing. This was something that brought a lot of joy to people, not only the children, but even to the people. And I also have a special thank you from John Henry from the Verona newsroom here in Verona, the news store. He, for the 10th year, has been doing Toys for Tots. So after the parade was finished, the people were able to go to the Verona News, and we had an abundance of toys there. And he is so grateful to everybody who donated these toys. It was such a blessing. And we had over 50 children who came and were able to get a toy. And he said it was just a great day. And he wanted to thank everybody and said, please make sure that you thank these people. And he wished everybody a very, very happy and healthy and safe new year. And also, I would like to thank Public Works doesn't work just 8 to 5. I was up one night quite late. It was 2:30 and these men were still out working. I'll tell you, that's just beyond commendable. And I thank each and every one of our men that work.
Did we lose her audio?
Yeah, she's muted.
Hold on, you're muted, Sylvia.
Sylvia, you're muted.
Sylvia, you muted yourself. There you go. Okay, it didn't help.
No, it did not. Sylvia, we can't hear you.
Not only do a great job, but by doing that job, they keep us safe. So they are greatly, greatly appreciated. And I was looking to see if I missed anything. I don't think I did, but I send sincere thanks to everybody, not only on our board that we work together. I send thanks out to all of our committees, all of our volunteers. You are all great, and you are so greatly appreciated. And I extend a very happy, healthy, safe thanks New Year to our board here and to each and every person in the audience. Have a wonderful, happy, healthy New Year. And Ray, congratulations on your retirement. 32 years, you've certainly earned it. That is not an easy job. You're out all hours too. So Ray, thank you very much, and warmest congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, Sylvia.
You're very welcome, Ray. Well deserved. And again, to all of you, a very wonderful, blessed New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay.
Yes.
Are there any comments?
Before comments, I'm sorry, I always forget something, but Sylvia's comment about thanking the news, John at the newsroom, made me think that I think we should also acknowledge LVAF because they collected a whole ton of toys as well and personally delivered them with their big truck that they bought to use for movies. And so, you know, they did a lot of work for helping out the kids. And I think that I didn't give a proper acknowledgement to all the volunteers in the community, the public who come to the meetings and take their time to think about what's going on with community and care for the community, all the various committees that they are on, the 150th celebration committee, the community group, the garden club, the, you know, excuse me if I don't remember every single club, but you know, the residents really help this community as well. Then they put a lot of time and effort into it. And I just wanted to reiterate a shout out to all of them as well. Thank you.
Nancy, I wasn't aware of that organization that you mentioned, so I apologize. I did not know anything about that.
No problem. You just made me think of it. Thank you.
You know what? I did forget one person, and nothing personal, Kimberly, but Kimberly Roller did a great job of putting together the fundraiser for our garden club, and we sold poinsettias. And I have to say a great big thank you to Kimberly. Kimberly, stellar performance. You did a great job, and I thank everyone that purchased poinsettias. I hope you're all enjoying them. Thank you again, Kimberly. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Kenner, are there any comments?
Yeah, I think Craig has his hand up.
Okay.
Say something before we go into that. You're muted, Craig. Or no, you're not.
Can you hear me
No,
now?
you're not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy, you said that the ordinance meeting's on the fourth Tuesday. Was that a misstatement? Is it?
That was a misstatement. I meant to say Monday.
Okay, we might want to think about actually moving it with the cleaning. I didn't realize that the cleaning people were only there 2 times a week. I figured they were there every night, and that the cleaning guys often waiting for us to finish up our meeting so he can clean the main room. So we might think about moving our night or moving the cleaning night.
We can talk about that at our next meeting because our next meeting will be on Zoom. But my recollection is the guy during our meeting would just come in and get his vacuum cleaner and go about his business. But I'm certainly open to looking at other times or days if you want to do that. That's no problem.
Just to have the new cleaning people come.
Tuesday and Friday, yeah. That's true too.
That'll be easy.
Thanks, guys. That's all I had. Sorry about that.
No, thank you. Thank you for suggesting that. Thank you.
So for public comment, the first one is Dawn or Road to War for Baby.
I'll keep this quick. It's Rhoda Wharf, 636 3rd Street in Verona. Mayor Recupero, can we revisit my request for placing a speed sign on South Avenue between 2nd and 4th Street? We discussed this a couple meetings ago. I'm not reading lips.
You're on.
You must be muted.
You're muted.
Dave, you're muted.
You're muted, yeah, Dave. There you go.
I didn't want my dog barking, that's why I'm mute. I did put in the budget for a electronic sign that runs by solar. So as soon as first of the year comes, I'll make sure that we get another one and we can float that around town.
Don't we have to, Dave?
There's one on the boulevard coming into town. Yes, there is one on the boulevard, but I put in the budget for another one so we could move it, different.
Okay, how about just a black and white sign that says 15 miles per hour?
You have to pass an ordinance to make that valid.
Yeah, the street.
I mean, I'm sure we have some extras in the garage.
Yeah,
Gary,
I mean,
can
Dave, you
you
could
look
look
into
into
it?
that to have them set one up.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that. I'll talk to AJ in the morning.
Oh, thank you so much. And Nancy, I don't know if this should be, directed to you, but Verona has an ordinance stating that all households should or must visibly display their house addresses. And many homes are not abiding by this ordinance. When I'm doing Meals on Wheels, there's a lot of homes that are not, posting or putting up their numbers. So can I suggest that the council authorize sending maybe a letter to all the Verona households stating this ordinance, and then the possible negative consequences in the case of an emergency when houses can't be identified? I mean, this could be very serious.
How about writing an article in the newsletter?
I will definitely write an article in the next newsletter, but it sure, wouldn't hurt to have a letter sent maybe. And also with that letter being sent, if we could also add storage of garbage. We have had reported reports about infestation of rats, even on 3rd Street. And I think it's imperative that all residents store their garbage in garbage cans and not just in plastic bags, because too many animals are getting into it. And not by securing their garbage, then it becomes litter, which is really susceptible to a fine. So could these 2 items maybe be put in a letter and sent to the residents?
Yeah, that's probably something maybe for Mark to take care of. I'll talk to him or Jerry or whatever. We will definitely figure out something. Thank
Those
you.
are 2 very important things. And like I said, we'll put articles in the next newsletter to reinforce perhaps the letter that you'll be sending out. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for listening and considering my comments. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Same to you, Rhoda.
That requirement for street numbers on visible on your doorway is now also in the International Property Maintenance Code. So it's universally required in Pennsylvania.
Next on the list is Jessica Verona.
Hi, everybody. Jessica Verona again, 722 Bruno. So I think I just want to make a couple comments. The process to hire a borough manager has really only just started. And based on tonight's meeting, I'm a little worried about how smoothly the process is going to go. I think that if all of the council members can work together and be on the same team, I know that you're going to be able to select a candidate who's a good fit for the whole town. And I'm really hopeful that you all can start to work together as that team and make sure that everyone's included on conversations and plans and whatnot. I don't think the person that is going to fill this role needs to, quote unquote, know Verona. I think they need to understand the public process. I think they need to have a passion for public and administration, be interested in moving us forward as a community, and have the ideas and energy to do that. I don't think they need to be from Verona or necessarily have, a lot of experience working in this town. Sure, we're unique, but there are a lot of towns that are similar to Verona, and this experience is universal. So I don't want us to, I hope that we're not going to narrow our field in that way. I also think that it's time to take a chance. We decided to take that chance when council agreed to hire someone full-time. That's a change from what we've been doing. And in my life, I found that the biggest risks often come with the biggest return. So don't be afraid of taking a risk and you're making your decision about who to hire, or even when hiring that interim manager. I heard people say it's too much of a risk to hire somebody that doesn't know Verona. Well, I think that, with that risk could come some amazing benefits. I also heard tonight that there are many constituents who feel differently from the folks that were on the call tonight who spoke up in favor of an interim manager or in favor of Doug Shields directly. And I would be glad to hear from those people. I have not heard from those people. They haven't called into the meeting. I would encourage them to do so. I would encourage them to speak up or write a letter if they can attend so that we can hear these diverse opinions. Otherwise, I'm not hearing them. I guess maybe Mike, you are, but the rest of us aren't. And it would be really helpful for us to know what other people are thinking. So I'm really, once again, impressed by all the residents who took time to dial in tonight and share their concerns. I think this is, again, a sign of a really healthy and growing community. So Happy New Year to you all. And thanks to all of you on council for your year of service to the community.
All right. So next will be Dan Showalter. You should be good, Dan. Dan? You there, Dan?
Dan, we can't hear you.
All right, we'll move on, and if he puts his hand back up, we'll get him at the end. Next is Laura Jacko.
Hi, everyone. Laura Jacko, 437 North. I'm going to keep it quick. I just wanted to point out something, and maybe I heard it wrong, but this is what I understood is that going back to the posting of the borough manager positions and the interim position, et cetera, I think that the posting for the full-time manager position had like an end date that was pretty soon. But I think if we're getting an interim manager, we could probably extend the posting of the borough manager date and how long we're taking applications for, because I think that the idea with the interim manager is one of their job duties would be to help us find a good and qualified applicant. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that the job posting for a full-time manager was approved before the interim position was. So did I get that correct? And if so, I just think it's something that we should go back and revisit the dates on that. That's it.
Laura, you were correct on that. When I spoke with Mr. Shields, he said that that would be one of his first priorities, to search out a borough manager, a full-time borough manager. And he said you probably wouldn't even possibly need to pay for an ad, he said, which would save you some money right there. He has a lot of strong connections. He knows a ton of people and could give us many choices. So yes, you were correct in what you heard.
I don't remember it precisely that way, though. What I remember in speaking with him saying is that he could assist us with finding a borough manager, not that he would just go and find one. It would be us who needs to consider who we're going to hire. And also, I still would suggest that we put an ad out in addition to any help that Mr. Shields or any other interim borough manager could give us.
I'm not opposed, Nancy, I'm not opposed to putting out the ad at all. But when I spoke with him after everybody else had spoken to him, I said to him, would that be one of your first priorities to help?
Yeah, to help us, but not to do it on his own, not to do it by himself.
That was the most furthest thing from my mind. Absolutely not. No, he would help us. And if I phrased it incorrectly, I stand corrected. No, he would help us. No, absolutely not. No. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Just speaking about that ad real quick, we're going to put that in various media, right? Not just a newspaper.
Correct.
Yeah. Indeed, and places like that, social media, various things.
And you can always extend the amount of time if you don't get strong resumes in the time period that you have listed there. You can always extend the amount of time that you're going to accept resumes.
Right. That's why we have that open until filled.
Are there any other comments?
Yeah. Tricia Walter.
Good evening again, Council. Trish Redzeck Showalter, 440 North. I wanted to ask Council, specifically our Council President, what is the best means to engage with you, and also what type of response time can we typically expect?
When I have a proper answer for your question, I'll respond. I don't like to just respond just to respond. So from now on, if I don't have a proper answer for you, I'll call and tell you back, I don't have an answer at this time. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next is Vince Flota.
Hi, Vince Flota, 323 Penn Street. I just want to thank Nancy and all the local businesses that helped us collect. Well, Nancy for bringing it up. I completely forgot about it. But the LVAF put donation boxes in 11 local businesses, and they were collecting toys for our toy drive since right before Thanksgiving. And we got about a half of a U-Haul truck full of toys. and we delivered those to local families all the way from Oakmont, Verona, Springdale, Penn Hills. I think there was one house in Wilmerding, but it was about 35 kids in all and 11 different local families in the area. And they all loved all the things. And I just wanted to thank the community for helping us provide for these families that needed help. Thank you.
All right. Next, Dan Showalter's hands up. I think maybe he got it figured out here. So go ahead, Dan.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. When you guys called on me, I was actually at that very moment emptying my daughter's potty. So first thing I would like to say to Mayor Dave, thank you for your service this past year. I know you've had a really rough health situation, and you have not let that interfere with your duties to the best of your abilities. So I'd like to thank you very much for that. And I will have the Santa suit down to the cleaners sometime this week. I keep blanking on it, so my bad. Also, I would like to personally apologize to Ray. In my statements earlier in the meeting, I lumped you in with a group of people. I made assumptions. And when you make assumptions, you're making a out of you and me. So Ray, I want to apologize. I overstepped my bounds and put words in your mouth. So I'm sorry for doing that. So anyways,
No problem.
Thank you very much, guys. And you have a good night.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, guys, I know we're at the end of the meeting, but Craig, we were gonna clarify the thing about the sunshine law and discussing things over email.
We have one more public comment too after that.
Oh, all right, after the public
Finish the
comment.
public comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have two now. First is Raya Homa.
Hi, thank you again. Also, thank you for reappointment to the Parks and Recreation Board. I appreciate the opportunity to continue serving Verona in that capacity. Also, Dan had brought up a great point. Mr. Suchevich, thank you for your service and congratulations on your much deserved retirement. I would like to discuss your passionate response to the discussion around Doug Shields, and I also owe you an apology if I misrepresented you in something that I had said. You seemed very upset that the constituents think that you are against Doug Shields. Are you saying that you are with your constituents and do support him?
I'm not saying I'm with or without him. I'm saying that I never said a word one way or the other, and people put words in my mouth.
I apologize for that. From my understandings, I was under the understanding that Doug Shields did not have the majority, and so the 4 people then would have included you. That's how I came to that.
There was never a vote on it. There was never a discussion on it.
Oh, I
There
did not
was an
realize there was a
invitation.
discussion. I thought that absolutely had been discussed. So that's disappointing if it hasn't been discussed. Thank you.
There
for
was an invitation though to meet the gentleman, and
There was an invitation, and I was told due to the Sunshine Act that I shouldn't be there, and that's why I was not there.
yeah, I don't know who told you that.
Well, I
or
can show you in
if-
the email.
Okay, well, we can deal with that when we're done, or tomorrow or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Next is Kimberly Roller.
Hello again, Council. Apologies for the children's TV show in the background. So one thing I just kind of want to, comment about, and I obviously don't want to beat a dead horse, but, I will say that I'm pretty disappointed in this council for trying to vote on something that not everybody on the council has had the opportunity to discuss. Mr. Carthy, I heard you loud and clear when you responded to Mr. Matlin specifically, and you said you have a problem with me. I think that was pretty inappropriate, and I really just want to kind of call you out on it, because I think that as a group, you're supposed to be the president of the Verona Borough Council, and it is your job, sir, to not pull back end handshake deals, with things that are going on in the council. And to be honest with you, that's kind of what some of this has felt like, which is probably why you're getting some very angry constituents on these Zoom calls, because it sounds like there's an agenda that not everybody on this council or not everybody in the borough is aware of, but certain people of this council are very aware of. And maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I've watched too much CSI. I don't know what the answer is, but I think that what you're doing sounds like gentlemen's handshakes behind closed doors. And I'm not personally okay with it. I think that, I've spoken before about the Riverview School District. You need to be very transparent when talking about things that involve the money that's coming in from public, voting on things that people don't all know about and don't have the full, concept and ideas of, instead of just saying, hey, I'd like to put a motion on the floor, and then certain members of council immediately saying, yeah, sure, I second that. That's not appropriate, and it's not what we as the public voted you in here for. So if this is going to continue, sir, I would challenge you to reassess how you're handling the Verona Borough and handling the constituents and what our requests were. I understand that there are some people that aren't super vocal on Zoom meetings and who are pretty quiet and maybe give you a call or a text or whatever that case is, but you're being recorded, and I think that some of your actions tonight were very inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay. So that's it for the public comment.
I'd like us to address the Sunshine Act and have clarification so that everyone can hear it before we end this meeting.
Thank you. So when the issue of interviewing Doug Shields came up, I was asked to give my opinion on that. And I was asked to give my opinion on the Sunshine Act on a few different occasions, but I wrote a lengthy opinion on one of those, and I think it was the one regarding Doug Shields. And it talks about what you're allowed to talk about in executive sessions and what you're not allowed to talk about in executive sessions. But certainly, you can talk about personnel matters in executive session, and the hiring of a borough manager or an interim borough manager is a personnel decision that can clearly be talked about in an executive session. What can't be done in an executive session is deliberation on non-executive session topics. So you can't deliberate, which means the act of trying to render a decision on issues that aren't allowed to be talked about in an executive session. But even personnel issues or legal issues or collective bargaining issues, while you're allowed to talk about those in executive session, you're allowed to deliberate to a certain extent. You still have to, when you make a decision, that decision is still made in public. The hiring of any individual is still made in public. The ratification of a collective bargaining agreement is made in public. It just allows you to discuss it in executive session. But if you're not deliberating agency business, you can still talk about things and gain information in what the court ruled was a gathering as opposed to an executive session, because executive sessions are limited to those things enumerated in the Sunshine Law. So go back and look at that opinion I wrote. If you want, I can resend it to you. Ray, there was an email that went around and talked about a meeting and possibly violating the Sunshine Law. And I think that somehow those two got confused. I do remember that explicitly that you said because of the sunshine law, you're not going to come. And then Pat said something to the effect, no, you come, and then have everybody bring it back to the meeting. You're
That
fine.
was about county hauling.
Yeah,
That was the county hauling meeting.
I think that just got confused. So
Mhm.
that's my take on the sunshine law. If you want me to resend that, that opinion, I'd be happy to do so.
So just for clarification, what you're saying is for us to all meet as a council with Doug Shields, that for a meet and greet or whatever you want to call it, we can do that.
100%.
Okay, and then the only obligation that we have is to tell the public at the next public meeting that we had a meeting with Doug Shields and talk to him about possibly being interim borough manager or whatever. And you're also saying that if we have a topic that we're discussing in email, we can actually do that email discussion as long as it has it's exec session type topics, and then we bring it back to the public.
As long as you're not deliberating. If you're just putting information out there, you can absolutely put email communications out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
You bet. My pleasure.
Okay. I want to wish all of you a happy new year. Thank you for everything and all the hard work, you and all the public, and hope 2021 is better than 2020. And with that, I need a motion to close this meeting.
I'll make a motion, Pat.
Motion made by Ms. Provenza to close the meeting. Second by Mr. Suchovich. Are there any questions? No questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Everybody.
This meeting is adjourned.
Happy
Have a
New
good
Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Good night.
All right.